στις θάλασσες όλου του κόσμου. Η Capital Product Partners LP πλέει προς όλο ταχώς προς την πράσινη ναυτιλία με σύγχρονο στόλο 25 πλοίων. Με 15 χρόνια επιτυχημένης παρουσίας στο χρηματιστήριο της Νέας Υόρκης και μακροχρόνιες ναυλώσεις με τις μεγαλύτερες εταιρείες ενέργειας και μεταφοράς κοντέινερ παγκοσμίως, πρωτοπορεί σε μια δυναμική ρότα επενδύσεων σε νέες τεχνολογίες πρόωσης, συμβάλλοντας στην ενεργειακή μετάβαση. Capital Product Partners LP.
Behind every great project stands a Lactor Group. For the past 70 years, we have been shaping the future of infrastructures in Greece and abroad. We bring people and communities together through projects that have modernized the country's infrastructure connectivity. We create pioneering landmarks that meet high global standards. Redevelopment projects that became tourist attractions and generated commercial growth. That brought to life a new generation of eco-friendly buildings and green urban constructions. Projects that became symbols of our cultural heritage. We are paving the way towards a sustainable future through environmental and energy infrastructures that promote circular economy and empower the energy transition. For 70 years now, we have been pioneers, meeting the challenges of today while investing in the opportunities of tomorrow. Through our people's exceptional expertise and extensive work experience, we lead the way in every business sector we operate by implementing cutting-edge technologies and innovative practices, committed to deliver safe and accessible to all infrastructures, continuing a steady path of sustainable growth, guided by our core values. We operate with ethos, transparency, environmental and social responsibility. Proud of our history and the lasting legacy of our achievements. A Lactor Group. We invest in an innovative and sustainable world.
Dear Travel Blog, I'm back in Greece at the Antoniou Family Hotel. Everything was great 5 years ago, well worth my 4 stars. But now I'm going to change my rating. The place is even better. It's become digital. My mobile is my key. Plus, I have a hotel app for whatever I need. The food is delicious and sustainable. Everything is powered by clean energy. I love this family and their hotel. They are so inspiring. As Mr. Antoniou once told me,
όλα είναι δυνατά. Αρκεί να έχεις τους κατάλληλους ανθρώπους δίπλα σου. Εμείς τους βρήκαμε στην Alpha Bank.
Είμαστε δίπλα σου με τη νέα υπηρεσία Alpha Smart Hospitality για να έχεις τους εξειδικευμένους συνεργάτες και τα εργαλεία που χρειάζεσαι και να περάσεις με σιγουριά στη νέα εποχή του τουρισμού. Από την Alpha Bank.
More than half a century ago, we envisioned the future, with people living in sustainable cities, in harmony with nature, with contemporary infrastructure, empowering quality in daily life. We envisioned the future and paved the way for the short and long journeys that connect people's lives and make dreams come alive. We believed in the clean energy revolution and the power of innovation, and ventured forth. We believed in our people, who carried their skills and expertise all over the world. We believed that everything new we undertake should create opportunities and bring prosperity to all. Gek Turner Group, investing in Greece, investing in the future.
Το δάσος δεν έπαψε στιγμή να μας προστατεύει. Έχει τα μάτια του στραμμένα επάνω μας για να μας προσφέρει στέγη, οξυγόνο, ζωή. Ήρθε όμως η στιγμή να στρέψουμε τα δικά μας μάτια επάνω του. Με την πρωτοβουλία Vodafone Smart Forest δημιουργούμε το πρώτο έξυπνο δάσος στην Ελλάδα που εντοπίζει έγκαιρα τη φωτιά. Αγκαλιάζουμε πιλωτικά περισσότερα από 314.000 στρέμματα στην Πάρνηθα με τη δύναμη της τεχνολογίας και του Vodafone Green Network. Γιατί όταν μπορούμε να προστατεύουμε το δάσος, μπορούμε να συμβάλλουμε σε ένα πιο βιώσιμο μέλλον για τις επόμενες γενιές. Together we can. Vodafone.
Today, Hedno is changing. We modernize our distribution network. We upgrade our services for everyone's benefit with smart grids, using automated systems and taking advantage of all the latest energy trends. We digitize our repair crews' work. We reduce costs. We lead the market and protect the environment. Above all, we put our energy into building a new network to communicate better with you, so that you can be assisted over the phone and report any fault online or via your mobile. Find immediate and direct solutions to most of your requests through our online services. Apply online to connect your electric vehicle recharging infrastructure to our network. Get prompt and accurate answers via a digital assistant. A network of innovation, a network of better service. And no, one power system for all.
Everything and nothing has changed. Even if the world feels uncertain, it's reassuring to know things that were important before still matter today. Connecting people, sharing ideas, and solving problems. These things will always be in our DNA. Working across borders, helping to keep doors open, business flowing, and continuing to realize the hopes and ambitions of our customers and colleagues. When you think about it like that, thankfully, not quite everything has changed.
10 με 18 Σεπτεμβρίου, 86η Διεθνής Έκθεση Θεσσαλονίκης. Τιμόμενη χώρα, τα Ηνωμένα Αραβικά Εμιράτα. Επιχειρηματικότητα, εκπαίδευση, τεχνολογία, ενέργεια και κυκλική οικονομία, αυτοκίνηση, ηλεκτροκίνηση, διεθνείς συμμετοχές, συναυλίες και ένα πρωτότυπο επαιτειακό αφιέρωμα για τα 100 χρόνια από τη Μικρασιατική καταστροφή. 86η ΔΕΔ, προκαλώντας το μέλλον. Οργάνωση Χελέξπο.
1, 2, 3. There we go. Ευχαριστούμε, καλορίζικο.
Ο Κυριάκος Μητσοτάκης έκανε τα εγγένεια της πρώτης μονάδας παραγωγής μηχανημάτων ανταποδοτικής ανακύκλωσης της Εμβίπκο στην Ελλάδα, που δημιουργήθηκε από Αμερικανούς επενδυτές στην Παλίνη.
Γνωρίζει το βάρος του, βγαίνει μέσα στη συνέχεια. Επεξεργάζεται, συμπιέζεται και πεφτεί.
Ο Πρωθυπουργός ξαναγήθηκε στη μονάδα και δοκίμασε τα μηχανήματα ανακύκλωσης που ξεχωρίζουν πλαστικό, μέταλλο και γυαλί.
Το εργοστάσιο αυτό δεν απευθύνεται μόνο στην ελληνική αγορά. Θα καλύψει ανάγκες όλης της νοτιοανατολικής Ευρώπης και γιατί όχι, με μελλοντικές επενδύσεις να μπορεί να μεγαλώσει κι άλλο. Και είμαι απολύτως σίγουρος ότι η επιλογή αυτή είναι μια επιλογή η οποία θα δικαιωθεί. Αποδεικνύοντας πια στην πράξη ότι υποψήφιοι επενδυτές μόνο ωφέλη έχουν πια να προσδοκούν από τη χώρα μας.
Στα εγγένεια υπήρξαν και μηνύματα από την άλλη πλευρά του Ατλαντικού.
Ο πρεσβευτής της ανταποδοτικής ανακύκλωσης και δεν είναι άλλος από...
Είμαι ιδιαίτερα χαρούμενος που στην Ελλάδα μας πραγματοποιήθηκε η επένδυση ώστε να κατασκευάζουν μηχανήματα ανακύκλωσης υψηλής τεχνολογίας για μεταλλικές, πλαστικές και γυάλινες συσκευασίες, συμβάλλοντας ενεργά στην κυκλική οικονομία, με τεχνολογία αιχμής και όραμα για ένα καλύτερο περιβάλλον. Η ανακύκλωση είναι μια παγκόσμια προτεραιότητα και στον αγώνα αυτό είμαστε όλοι μια ομάδα. Γιατί η ανακύκλωση είναι υπόθεση όλων μας. Ας αφήσουμε τις επόμενες γενιές τον πλανήτη μας σε καλύτερη κατάσταση από αυτή που τον παραλάβαμε.
This is a nice room. Big, high ceilings, bright, wonderful, lovely air. Right, I'm going to start. It is, ladies and gentlemen, a delight for me to welcome you to The Economist's second Thessaloniki Metropolitan Summit. This one's just like the first, but it's bigger, it's better, and I'm very, very much looking forward to it. Also delighted to be in this extraordinary city. I'm not going to wax lyrical about what a fabulous place it is because you already know that, but it is fantastic to be here. We stand here at the heart of a region that's taking increasing strategic importance. This region matters for northern Greece, the region and the city, but it matters for Southeast Europe, and it matters for NATO's connection with its eastern flank. It matters to the world, and these things have always been true, or long been true, but in light of Russia's war in Ukraine and the response of neighboring countries to that conflict, it matters all the more at the moment. So it's an extraordinary time to be all together meeting here. The region overlooks sea lanes through which much of the world's food travels. It hosts pipelines that carry vital supplies of gas from Central Asia to the towns and cities of Europe. It hosts port and rail and road infrastructure that interconnect the whole region. Our conference will look at all of these issues, and we have great speakers to help us unravel the implications of what we're seeing around us at the moment. I'm pleased actually to pick out one or two of the people who are in the room with us today who will be with us for the conference. Guy Verhofstadt, a member of the EU Parliament. We have Peter Altmaier, who's a former minister in the German government of economy, so he's one of our favourites. And we have Joshua Volz, who's the Deputy Assistant Secretary in the US Department of Energy. You're all very, very welcome. I should also take this opportunity to give profound thanks to our sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't be together this evening. And also to Power Game, who are our partners in the hosting of this event. So a real pleasure to have them on board again for a second year. And she won't like it, but I should give a special mention to Nectaria Pasaravikis and her team, who are the main organisers of everything that you're experiencing tonight and tomorrow. A very special thanks to them, because every event that we do with them is a success and is wonderfully, wonderfully organised. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to hand straight across to Stavros Kalafatis, who's the Deputy Minister of the Interior, responsible for the region of Macedonia and Thrace, who's going to come up and give us his own welcoming words. So for the moment, thank you from me.
The microphone of Mr. Kalafatis is off. The interpreter cannot listen to Mr. Kalafatis. Could you please inform him that his microphone is off and we cannot listen to what he is saying? Thank you very much. Could you please inform Mr. Kalafatis that his mic is off and I cannot listen to him? I apologize, the interpreter cannot translate. I still cannot hear the gentleman. I don't know if there is a technical problem. I apologize. Oh, now I can. Thank you. Distinguished former President of the French Republic, distinguished former Prime Minister of Belgium, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues from the government and the Greek Parliament, Mayor of Thessaloniki, representatives of local authorities, distinguished guests, representatives of authorities, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to welcome our distinguished, eminent guests and distinguished speakers from Greece and abroad. We're welcoming here in Thessaloniki, which is the center of innovation, the second Thessaloniki Metropolitan Summit, which is co-organized by Power Game. This conference is organized at a time of festivities for Thessaloniki. It is the period when the Thessaloniki International Fair is held. This conference, this summit, is held at a time when the 12-year period of European surveillance of our economy is over. It occurs at a critical moment for the whole of Europe. As a step of dialogue, it puts the foreground on economy, safety, and foreign policy. The new data that exist show that the selection of Greece is the right choice. And the government wants to take advantage of RES and contribute to the energy independence of Europe by Russian fuels. It wants to accelerate the processes and projects that render Thessaloniki and Alexandroupolis, the region of Macedonia and Thrace, a hub for transferring natural gas from Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East to the Balkans and Eastern Europe. In order to materialize this goal, we have a series of bilateral agreements of strategic importance. Greece is accelerating on the way of digital transition. The government has proven that it knows how to handle difficult conditions with wisdom, courage, and social sensitivity. We have proven that during the pandemic. We invested more than 43 million euros in order to support businesses, employees, workers, and unemployed. And now we are investing 8.5 billion euros in order to absorb the increase of prices. We also absorbed community funds, more than 70 billion euros for the 7 years. We have proven that with a strong message sent by Thessaloniki and Northern Greece, where colossal technological companies opted to invest in. And we prove it with a new perspective of Thessaloniki of 2030, with more than 30 projects of investment and infrastructure projects carried out. These will change the image of Thessaloniki and will provide it the strategic role that it deserves to play in the Balkans. Greece is here, an equal partner of the big European family, a power of security, safety, and peace in the region, in a Europe of global cooperation and peace. May your summit be successful. Thank you very much.
I'd like to welcome up Apostolos Tzitzikostas, who is the Regional Governor of Central Macedonia, President of the European Committee of the Regions. Mr. Tzitzikostas, if you'd like to come up and give us a welcome word, please.
I'm here. Unfortunately, I cannot be with you today, but I'm connected. Can you hear me?
Right there. I knew
Great.
that, and I forgot.
Great.
So please go ahead and give us your word.
Thank you. Thank you. Αξιότιμοι προσκεκλημένοι.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor and pleasure for me, although I can't be physically close to you, to host you in Central Macedonia and Thessaloniki, and to welcome the second Thessaloniki Metropolitan Summit. This is an important institution held in our region for the second time. It is an upcoming institution. I would like to congratulate the organizers because you have fully realized the important role that Thessaloniki and Central Macedonia are going to play in growth and the economy. Indeed, this is a region where one should invest, and I'm happy to see that you are here for a second consecutive year organizing this important summit. I would like you to know that the region of Central Macedonia will be by your side because we believe that the summits and events like this upgrade the role of Thessaloniki and the whole of our country. I would like to welcome your eminent guest, Mr. Hollande, Mr. Altmaier, Mr. Verhofstadt, whom I'd like to thank one more time for our close cooperation on our dialogue with Europe. But today, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about issues that have to do with our common house, our common heritage, and our common future. Of course, I'm referring to the European Union and the difficult equations that we must solve now, immediately, directly, not in the future, in the midst of successive crises that have become a regular phenomenon, because it is a fact that nowadays we're having to face several parallel threats and challenges. We have the energy crisis, high prices, inflation, problems in logistics, and climate change, the crisis with floods, fires, natural disasters, which are becoming more and more frequent and intense, threatening the lives and fortunes and properties of a lot of our fellow citizens. And of course, for us, the Greeks, we have got the crisis of the previous decade, the economic crisis. And of course, we should not forget that President Hollande was one of the people who helped Greece at that time. Mr. Hollande, I would like to thank you for helping Greece at those difficult times. I would like you to know that we will never forget your help and support. And welcome to Thessaloniki. The gentleman said all this in French. But today we are having a dark cloud over Europe, and this has to do with the fact that the quality of life of young Europeans might be worse than the previous generation. This hasn't occurred since the Second World War. This means that Europe must give common, convincing answers. It should show that it has the common will to take courageous decisions and to show initiative in change, in climate change, and democratic representation, security and safety, so that all citizens will be included and so that all citizens won't be hearing the outcries of popular voices. The role of all the regions of the European Committee plays a nodal role. 70% of all the actions undertaken by the European Union, 90% of the actions to tackle energy crisis and environmental climate change are held by the regions and municipalities. And what are they doing? They turn these European funds into measurable projects for the citizens. Regions and municipalities are closer to citizens and know the problems they face. So the European edifice was created and formed from up to bottom. But if we want to have a better, more stable European future, it should be built on a bottom-up approach with the regions and municipalities in the center with a feeling of solidarity. Showing that the European Union really cares for its citizens, so that Europe will be closer to its citizens. I would like to thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to be connected to you today at the opening ceremony of this important summit. May the works of your summit be successful. The region of Central Macedonia will be in the front line of this important initiative that started last year and will continue the years ahead. Thank you very much. Your mic is off. I cannot hear you. I apologize. I cannot hear what you're saying.
Who is the mayor of this wonderful city? Please come up, Mr. Senator. Again, stand up.
I hope the sound is okay.
Distinguished former President of the French Republic, former Prime Minister of Belgium, eminent guests, ministers, dear organizers, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to Thessaloniki in this high-level event that deals with so many important issues. It's a pleasure, privilege and honor for the city of Thessaloniki to host the second Thessaloniki Metropolitan Summit. We're really happy when events that gather the interest in Greece and Europe are held in our city. I would like to congratulate the organizers for this effort in particular. I would like to make a special mention to Mr. François Hollande, who is our keynote speaker this evening. We have the pleasure and honor to receive and host a friend of Greece who honored the friendship of the two peoples at the most decisive moment in the last decades. We are welcoming here the former president of the French Republic, but also a man who was also a mayor. He was a mayor, you might not know that, with high percentages, and he had important work done. And as Mr. Gigi Costa said, I also believe that an important parameter of the European cohesion and democracy in our continent is local administration, because decisions might be taken at the highest level, but the societies, the cohesive societies, are woven at a lower level in the cities, towns and villages of Europe. The vision of unity and solidarity goes through the municipalities of Europe. So today we are welcoming here in the second biggest city of Greece President Hollande, a politician who, with his policies, not only helped Greece at those difficult times back then, but he also contributed decisively to the cohesion of the European edifice. His decisive interventions were those that prevented any scenario of centrifugal prospect for our common house. His political views made him a guarantor of Republican democracy in the previous decade. He put forward solidarity, cohesion, the European idea played a decisive role for our country and for Europe as well. It is worth mentioning and remembering all this because history should be remembered and should be mentioned. That's why we should always mention the important figures of history. The challenges for our continent today are successive. Back then, it was economic crisis and Eurozone, but today it's the war, very close to us. After decades, when we believed that all this belonged to the past, here, once again, we have to face a development that seems inconceivable even today. It's the war, the energy crisis, inflation, food problem, geopolitical upheavals, competitions at a century when climate change is or should be the fundamental issue of world community. Our societies and peoples face the same challenges, share the same fears, and are faced with the same upheavals. So we should all work together for the common vision of Europe, a vision of peace, of stability, of growth, the vision of culture and civilization, of a common European way of life. Distinguished guests, I would like to welcome you once again to Thessaloniki, a city which is a city that has all those elements that make it European. According to Valerie, Thessaloniki is fed by its ancient Greek culture and heritage, its Roman heritage, and its Byzantine heritage. So this city has kept all these characteristics that make it the first European city, undoubtedly a city that changes and forms its future with optimism. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're in.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure and honor for me this evening to be here to address you in the presence of a great friend of our country and former president of a big friendly country. Because I believe that we all know that the bonds and ties between France and Greece are long-lasting bonds and ties. Every Greek child that graduates from school knows very well who is Admiral de Rigny and what we owe to him for the success of the Greek Revolution. Any graduate from Greek university really knows who is General Mezan and who pushed away the Ottoman troops away from Greece during Cappadocia times. Being here in Thessaloniki, I should also say that we all know who was General Aral, who was here in this city when the Greek and French soldiers fought side by side during the First World War. And of course, we also fought side by side during the Second World War. We, the older ones, remember the extracts from newspapers that remained after the General de Gaulle visit, together with Konstantinos Karamanlis' visit here in Thessaloniki back in 1963. And of course, Mr. President, I'm addressing you to tell you, on behalf of the Greek government and on behalf of the Greek people and on behalf of the Greek society, that we do not forget the aid, support, and help that you offered us. Solidarity and unity that you taught us, Mr. President, are elements which unfortunately truly need nowadays in Europe even more in order to tackle and face contemporary challenges today, to tackle the revisionist powers that are given birth once again in the 21st century. Russian invasion to Ukraine was a huge test for the European edifice and still is such one. But through this test, just like all the similar crises, the European edifice becomes stronger. Our country, Greece, has contributed to this effort, following its principles and values, following its positions that always go along with the international law. In this framework, we are also facing energy challenge. Here in Thessaloniki, in northern Greece, I believe it is the right place to refer to that. Natural gas pipes, IGB, TAP, are means to face this challenge. They prove that our country looked ahead in the future. However, the challenges at our times for Europe, for the European edifice, and for our country do not only come from the north, they also come from the east. Ladies and gentlemen, in the last days, we have been experiencing a huge tension and increase of Turkish provocation against Greece, and an unbelievable upgrade that is a direct threat for the territorial integrity and for the existence per se of our country. So far, we have never heard anyone questioning the Hellenic character of the Greek, of the islands of the Aegean Sea. And I would like to repeat here in Thessaloniki what I've said earlier in the morning in the Greek Parliament, where I presented the protocol for the accession of Sweden and Finland to NATO. Our country, our people, our society is not afraid of this kind of threats. Our country, our people, our society reject this kind of threats. And we would like to call our allies, our friends, and the members of the European family to realize the size of the challenge that our country is facing. Ladies and gentlemen, dear President, I also had the pleasure to host in Athens Petrin Kolona, the Minister of Foreign Affairs from your country. And I repeated to her once again that Greece relies on the French help on the strategic relationship and alliance with the French Republic. And I would like to say clearly and in a straightforward manner that our answer and response to the challenges and provocations that we receive is the response of a contemporary, strong European democracy. It is a response and an answer that rejects revisionists, no matter where they come from, a response and answer that doesn't take into account new Ottoman perceptions and practices, and looks forward to a European common future with unity and solidarity. Thank you very much.
Very much indeed. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, well, it is my delight to welcome our guest of honor and our keynote speaker tonight. Clearly, I discover you all know him. He seems very popular here. Francois Hollande, former President of France, please join us on the stage at the podium. Thank you. And while Mr. Hollande readies himself, I'd also like to invite up Jerry Kaloyiratos, who's the CEO of Capital Group of Companies, who's going to join us for a chat afterwards.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you. Have a seat, if you would. Thank you.
Messieurs les ministres.
Yeah. Mr. Minister, Mayor, Regional Governor, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to be here in Greece. Not only to receive your kind words, but because I come from a country which is friend of Greece, that is a member of the European Union and NATO. Mr. Minister, your words have touched me, because my work as President of the French Republic, aiming at securing the position of Greece in the Eurozone, was compatible with the work of my predecessors, who aimed at building Europe. But besides the reasons of friendship that connect us with Greece, I did it for the whole of Eurozone, because in case Greece had to leave Eurozone, this would shake the whole Eurozone, because together with Eurozone there would be some other countries which would follow the fate of Greece at some time. So we went out of this condition in a triumphant way. Of course, I'd like to say that the role of Angela Merkel was very important. She too realized in time that Greece had to remain by our side. So today, Europe has been experiencing a succession of crises. The crisis of the Eurozone a few years ago. Following that, we had the crisis of the refugee waves, the pandemic, and now it's the war in Ukraine and the high prices in energy. Facing these crises, we should safeguard the solidarity in the framework of Europe. Europe always makes good decisions, but frequently it delays making these decisions. However, today we have no time to waste. Europe has proven in recent years that it has managed to overcome several shaky moments and avoid its division. As a proof and evidence, I could mention all those things that we managed concerning the cohesion of Eurozone and the health crisis management, the vaccination policy, the European funds that are offered to support EU member states. Now, having to face the Russian invasion to Ukraine, we have adopted a solidarity view once again. The cost of sanctions, which is painful for Russia, is also painful for our countries. And the question that we ask is whether the cohesion and solidarity that Europe has been showing will resist against all these consequences deriving from the sanctions, like high inflation rate and so on. Which are the risks? The first one is that in the framework of the European Union, there might be some countries that might ask for the lifting the sanctions that were imposed in Russia. Believing and considering that public opinion cannot suffer these sanctions. Hungary has already adopted such a position, and some other countries also follow. In a few days, we're having the Italian elections, and if the right-wing party wins the elections, this party has already expressed their will to lift some of these sanctions. A second risk is that at this very moment there is some kind of fatigue in the framework of our societies. We have shown solidarity to the country that has been attacked, but some of our fellow citizens consider that this has kept too long and that this war should be over, even if it is in the detriment of the country that has been invaded. The third risk is that several member states have more and more difficulty in accepting the impact of the war that has brought the increase in energy prices. So there is a lack of balance, and there are several member states within the European Union that try to mitigate the pressure that is exercised to Russia. And I could confirm and assure you that a European society is fragile and suffers from a declining course. This is what Putin believes. This is the spirit of resistance we have showed in Europe, and we hope that we will keep this resistance spirit. And we hope that something good will happen in the end. There are three challenges that the Union has to face. The first one is the energy challenge. It has to do both with the price and the quantity. First of all, we must reduce our dependence on Russian natural gas, finding other suppliers and alternative forms of energy. Additionally, we should set a maximum limit and highest limit in the price of natural gas. Can Europe agree on these measures, or will there be some different views expressed for one more time within the framework of the European Union? This will also affect the rules of approval of these decisions. That is, if we have the principle of unanimity, then only one country can block this process. Some countries might not agree with this policy of finding alternative energy sources. We must undertake our responsibilities in this case as well. The second challenge for Europe is a fiscal and economic one. Most EU member states whose economies have been degraded due to the energy crisis, now they are called upon to spend more funds either in order to support households subsidizing the energy prices, or to search for alternative forms of energy. The public funds will be further degraded, and the European Central Bank today raised its interest rates by 75 basis points. This means it will affect the loans that the member states and consumers have taken. Therefore, the European Union should take action. Perhaps it could adopt a framework that will be accepted by everyone. I'm not certain concerning the result of this effort. However, there is the need for the European Union to help member states to this end. The third challenge is a military one. Europe knows that economic prosperity doesn't go hand in hand with military strength. It has also realized that the trade with countries that have dictatorships does not lead to a democracy. It's an illusion to believe that we can open up our borders to countries like Russia and China concerning commercial and trade transactions. Europe has also found out that the United States, for several years now, have been withdrawing in some way. Barack Obama, during the war in Syria, then Donald Trump, with the mass withdrawal from Afghanistan. He had an ambiguous relationship with Putin, and even Biden, during the first months of his term, does not consider what is happening in Europe very important. He is more interested in what's happening in China. Therefore, Europe should consider that at this very moment it should develop its defense. The European defense within NATO is a defense that is credible, and it is respectable. The Germans took courageous decisions to invest 100 million euros in order to develop the military force of the country. Greece also makes a significant effort to this direction, not only by buying Rafale, but also because it has realized, and the minister also mentioned that, it has realized that it might be threatened by abroad. Therefore, the defense is a sector that all EU member states should consider as priority, although there are several other issues to be resolved. The French-German axis at this moment is close. It has a close relationship. It is strengthened. And it also tries to strengthen the defense axis between EU and NATO. Finland and Sweden have become members of NATO despite the reservations expressed by Turkey. This is another significant point. In conclusion, I'd like to say that we should act really fast in order to convince our societies that we do have a holistic policy. In order to safeguard energy supplies, we can achieve that only if we have solidarity. Through Europe, through the answer given by Europe, we will find the answer to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The first possible solution is to have a freezing of this conflict, a status quo, which will freeze the whole situation. In this case, if this conflict freezes today, and if we move on to a settlement similar to the Minsk settlement, this will mean that Putin won the war. But other countries, of course, will follow the Russian example. And this is a further risk because they will consider that by using violence, they could impose themselves and that diplomacy doesn't play any role. The other option is to safeguard that Putin will receive pressures, and this will be achieved by further pressures and sanctions against Russia, military sanctions, economic sanctions, and political sanctions. By isolating Russia, China has been observing and monitoring what we are thinking of doing, waiting to see what will happen. If the first scenario prevails, if the first solution prevails, then China as well might be turned to Taiwan, imitating Russia. If the second scenario prevails and Putin loses, then China will know that it has nothing to win if it turns against Taiwan. It can only lose. And let's not forget that China's economy is much more advanced than Russian economy. We should not accept that within NATO we can have such a threat against a NATO country. Turkey is a candidate member for accession, and it has a presence in a potential large form of Europe. So how can it threaten a European country? Therefore, we should not let the countries of the south on their own. Of course, there were some countries that didn't take a position concerning the Russians' invasion. This happened because they believe that we are not careful with the issues that they are concerned, that is climate crisis and terrorism. In other words, if we want to be a considerable power, we should take common decisions. This is what I wanted to say to you here in Thessaloniki, a city that I'm discovering today, the second biggest city in Greece, a big port that plays an important European role. Thank you very much for your warm welcome. And I'd like to tell you that regardless of the name of the French president, we are always friends of Greece. Thank you very much.
Very much for that. I'm going to hand straight across to you, Jerry, if you'd like to give us 5-6 minutes of your thoughts on what you've heard, your own views on the situation that we face.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Κύριε Πρόεδρε, κυρίες και κύριοι.
Good evening, Mr. President, dear ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to have the opportunity to share some thoughts of mine at this difficult moment that we have been experiencing before this distinguished guest, following the excellent presentation by Mr. Hollande. Mr. Hollande is right when he says that Europe finds itself at the crossroads and has difficult decisions to take. The death of Queen Elizabeth that was just announced is felt as the end of an era where we had stability, increased prosperity, and of course peace in Europe. The challenges that we have to face are much bigger than we could imagine a few months ago. This week I talked with a series of companies of public utilities from all Europe, some colossal companies from Germany, Austria, Finland, Sweden. Many of them are bankrupt or on the edge of bankruptcy. In our discussions, the anxiety for winter and how we will cover the energy needs of their countries, having the Russian natural gas closed, is more than obvious. In the industry of LNG production in the following 2 or 3 years until new infrastructures of liquefaction is made in the US and elsewhere in the world, we will not have adequate natural gas through the LNG because the existing LNG in offer has limited quantity, is of limited quantity. The European companies that will be called upon to solve this issue in the following 2-3 years will have to seek supplies from third parties where there will be high prices and there will be shortages for a short time at least. As you know, natural gas is vital not only for heating and electricity but also for the production of ammonia, which is necessary for fertilizer production and for plastic production and other types of production. This will inflict the industries and not only consumers, and this will cause a vicious circle for economy. At this point, the Greek pioneering shipping and maritime industry plays an important role because we have LNG ships and we are also planning to give to Germany the possibility to import via sea important quantities of gas in winter. So could you imagine what would happen if this fleet were in Russian hands, and what would this mean for Russia, for Europe and its energy choices? So the war in Ukraine has helped us to reach in a fast-track manner in some realizations. First of all, how fragile peace and stability remains in Europe. What we considered as an acquis for the last 50 years, for example, energy safety and adequacy and sufficiency. Without these, we cannot have prosperity in entrepreneurship, and realistic solutions must be found. Secondly, businesses should join their forces and show the strategic capital that they have. Greek shipping industry and the safety in raw material, food and energy should be safeguarded, and we shouldn't let this advantage and know-how to go to foreign hands. Thirdly, we should think of the adequacy of Europe in energy and other strategic sources in order to have independence in the future. The technologies of the future, for example, microchip production, the necessary raw materials for their production will be necessary for the development of Europe. China is already ahead concerning raw material for battery construction and creates a monopoly. How different will this be from what we are experiencing today if Europe depends on Russia and we won't have adequacy in producing batteries? The energy crisis has shown how problematic the dependency of Europe on Russia was, and how important was the delay in green transition. Each country has followed so far its own model of safeguarding its energy supplies on its own and not as a union. The current situation has shown that the safety and security of Europe goes through mechanisms in Europe that will lead us to collective decisions. It is very clear, as President Hollande said, that energy should be considered as a unity. In my view, what is needed is courageous decisions and setting and deciding on energy independence for the whole of Europe through a common plan. This plan will have to safeguard the necessary interconnections for all EU countries, better interconnections of pipes, of the electricity grid, using the European fleet, and using RES and nuclear energy and consumption when there is deficit. Finally, in the short run, a single plan must exist in order to absorb the existing shock of high prices and support consumers. Let's not forget the gains that the EU had when it followed a collective approach concerning COVID vaccines. The same could happen with LNG. This will mean that Europe can move on in a decisive manner. We should admit, as Mr. Hollande knows, that were moments when Europe didn't manage to give an answer in time and in a coordinated manner. But nowadays, this should not happen. During the Euro crisis, it took a long time to hear that. We, people who come from business world, we wonder with the delays existing in Europe, in the European Union. Europe should give a battle against all these challenges, but this won't be a battle only that governments will give. Business people and industries can also support governments in order to help the independence of EU, so that all the energy supplies will continue existing. We should continue investing in green shipping, because shipping is a part of the problem of climate change. Investing in new fuels and new technologies, constant upgrade of our fleet, investing in a viable, sustainable future without depending on third parties. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Please join us.
Thank you.
If you're happy to, for some brief questions. I know everybody's hungry. I have my eyes on the time, and I promise not to keep you away from the food for too long, but I think it would be a terrible waste if we didn't take this opportunity to ask a few questions of our guests. I want to start off, Mr. Hollande, with you, if I may. You were quite clear on the sort of binary of a Putin victory or a Putin defeat. You were clear on what victory would mean in its implications. Can you give us a few words on what defeat would look like? How do we define defeat in this particular context? And what are the implications, in the way that you set out the implications of a victory, what are the implications of a defeat for Putin?
Putin's defeat would be to force him to make a step backwards and not to move on to the territories that he has already acquired according to Minsk agreement of 2015. So he will have to withdraw his troops from the southern part of Ukraine. And return them to Ukraine. And I will come back to the issue of Crimea. In this case, he will lose all those parts that he has conquered since February, when the war broke out. As for Crimea, we don't know if Russia will reach Crimea. In that case, of course, the defeat of Putin would be absolute and complete. However, it's not certain that the Ukrainians have the necessary military means to do so. In Crimea, there was indifference expressed by the European community. A decision was made back in the 50s. Putin, however, has lost in some way because he has already suffered from the economic sanctions. Also, concerning the alliances that Russia has, he also lost some ground. For 10 years, Russia and China have a bloc that considers that totalitarian regimes have the first role to play. In this condition, there is a balance. If Putin loses the war, then China is the power that will be shown to be the greatest power in the alliance of these two countries, and this will be some form of humiliation for Russia. If Putin loses power, this is something very difficult, but we cannot predict that. His whole edifice relies on patriotism. So if he loses this war, then I believe that the system within which he builds his sovereignty will be undermined.
Very easy question. I'm going to start with you, Jerry. You spoke about businesses needing to join forces with each other, their relationship to the wider picture beyond business itself. Do we need to rethink capitalism and its relationship with the state? Do we need to rethink the role of business and the role of the state, the way they combine together, but also the way each of them operates in its own right? An easy question.
Indeed, indeed. I think what we knew that was valid for the last 50, 60 years maybe, is now in question. Effectively, Europe is at war. It might be an economic war, but it is at war. And in times of war, you see that different approaches are needed. The nationalization of energy companies or utilities would have been unthinkable until 6 months ago. We are undoing what was done effectively in the 80s and the 90s. So there will be, I think, questions that will need to be answered in a different way, and we'll need to react in such a way so that after this, capitalism remains intact in terms of how it operates, but in the end, there will be instances where the government will have to step in. In times of extreme circumstances, you need also extreme measures.
Okay. Mr. Hollande, I suspect you've always had thoughts about this, but at this present moment, what are your thoughts?
Concerning the challenges that we have to face, there is a very effective combination with businesses on the one hand, the states and governments on the other. There is a global strategy. On the one hand, the states have already spent a lot of public expenditure during the pandemic, therefore their financial and economic means are limited. On the other hand, businesses have important profits due to energy crisis. So this is a difficult economic condition. Therefore, we should help the one party and help with the survival of the other party. Concerning now the solidarity of the member states in order to maintain the interconnection of energy distribution networks, this is something that should be done at European level. For this reason, Europe should change its dimension, not its physical dimension, because it is a power per se. And concerning energy crisis, we should use this crisis as a lever in order to move faster and further. concerning climate crisis. I don't know if Europe is ready for something like that, or are member states ready to show this kind of subsidiarity? Are they ready to give away funds and resources? The same is true for the European Union. This is something that is left to be seen in the following years.
Go to waste. And we feel as if we're in the middle of 4 or 5 crises all at once, so that's one hell of an opportunity. Let's hope we don't waste it. Okay, I can feel that I'm losing your patience, but I am going to test it just a second more, because I have another easy question, mainly for you, but I'm happy to have you jump in if you'd like. And this is perhaps putting my finger on the wound a little bit, but the foreign minister spoke in diplomatic terms, as you would expect, about Greece's relationship with Turkey, Turkey's relationship with Europe, and this whole complex picture. What can you tell us about what you think about what Europe can do given these tensions? I mean, I raise it in the context of, we were talking as well about Finland and the Baltic states, the concerns they had about Russia, which were largely ignored and largely pushed to one side. What can Europe do now to help ease this tension between Greece and Turkey?
Erdogan
the strategy should change. The strategy of 6 years should change. During Macron, Turkey wanted to become an EU member, and it wanted to set an example and not confuse the role of Islamism. But now it has been having a more aggressive attitude. We see that in Syria, in Afghanistan, in Cyprus, and in the relationship with Greece. Given the fact that elections are ahead, it should show a patriotic feeling, just like Putin. There is a proximity concerning the characters of the two leaders. They are the greatest enemies in the world in some way. Erdogan supports Ukraine, defending, however, Russian positions. Therefore, he plays this dual role. Turkey is a NATO member. We cannot accept from a NATO member to question the borders that are an element of stability in the whole international community. Additionally, inflation rate in Turkey is soaring, interest rates are skyrocketing. Therefore, the difficult economic condition in Turkey makes it depending on Russia. However, we should also exercise pressure to Erdogan. Therefore, all those things that Erdogan has said in the last days are very serious and are a threat against the national sovereignty of Greece. If Putin won the war, if he managed to occupy part of Ukraine, I mentioned earlier China, but now I'll mention Turkey. In that case, Turkey will believe that what Putin succeeded, then Turkey can succeed as well. Therefore, the issue at stake is very important in that Ukraine invasion.
As well, because you could easily have given me politicians' answers to those questions. Please join me in thanking our guests. Thank you both very, very much.
Merci.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we have our photo call, I would like to welcome you to dinner. Please enjoy your dinner, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thank you very much indeed.
Ο Κυριάκος Μητσοτάκης έκανε τα εγγένεια της πρώτης μονάδας παραγωγής μηχανημάτων ανταποδοτικής ανακύκλωσης της Εμβίπκο στην Ελλάδα, που δημιουργήθηκε από Αμερικανούς επενδυτές στην Παλίνη.
Γνωρίζει το βάρος του, βγαίνει μέσα στη συνέχεια, επεξεργάζεται, συμπιέζεται και πεφτεί.
Ο Πρωθυπουργός ξεναγήθηκε στη μονάδα και δοκίμασε τα μηχανήματα ανακύκλωσης που ξεχωρίζουν πλαστικό, μέταλλο και γυαλί.
Το εργοστάσιο αυτό δεν απευθύνεται μόνο στην ελληνική αγορά. Θα καλύψει ανάγκες όλης της νοτιοανατολικής Ευρώπης και γιατί όχι, με μελλοντικές επενδύσεις να μπορεί να μεγαλώσει κι άλλο. Και είμαι απολύτως σίγουρος ότι η επιλογή αυτή είναι μια επιλογή η οποία θα δικαιωθεί. Αποδεικνύοντας πια στην πράξη ότι υποψήφιοι επενδυτές μόνο ωφέλη έχουν πια να προσδοκούν από τη χώρα μας.
Στα εγγένεια υπήρξαν και μηνύματα από την άλλη πλευρά του Ατλαντικού.
Ο πρεσβευτής της ανταποδοτικής ανακύκλωσης και δεν είναι άλλος από...
Είμαι ιδιαίτερα χαρούμενος που στην Ελλάδα μας πραγματοποιήθηκε η επένδυση ώστε να κατασκευάζουμε μηχανήματα ανακύκλωσης υψηλής τεχνολογίας για μεταλλικές, πλαστικές και γυάλινες συσκευασίες, συμβάλλοντας ενεργά στην κυκλική οικονομία, με τεχνολογία αιχμής και όραμα για ένα καλύτερο περιβάλλον. Η ανακύκλωση είναι μια παγκόσμια προτεραιότητα και στον αγώνα αυτό είμαστε όλοι μια ομάδα. Γιατί η ανακύκλωση είναι υπόθεση όλων μας. Ας αφήσουμε τις επόμενες γενιές τον πλανήτη μας σε καλύτερη κατάσταση από αυτή που τον παραλάβαμε.
στις θάλασσες όλου του κόσμου. Η Capital Product Partners LP πλέει πρόσω ολοταχώς προς την πράσινη ναυτιλία με σύγχρονο στόλο 25 πλοίων. Με 15 χρόνια επιτυχημένης παρουσίας στο χρηματιστήριο της Νέας Υόρκης και μακροχρόνιες ναυλώσεις με τις μεγαλύτερες εταιρείες ενέργειας και μεταφοράς κοντέινερ παγκοσμίως, πρωτοπορεί σε μια δυναμική ρότα επενδύσεων σε νέες τεχνολογίες πρόωσης, συμβάλλοντας στην ενεργειακή μετάβαση. Capital Product Partners LP.
Behind every great project stands Ellactor Group. For the past 70 years, we have been shaping the future of infrastructures in Greece and abroad. We bring people and communities together through projects that have modernized the country's infrastructure connectivity. We create pioneering landmarks that meet high global standards. Redevelopment projects that became tourist attractions and generated commercial growth. That brought to life a new generation of eco-friendly buildings and green urban constructions. Projects that became symbols of our cultural heritage. We are paving the way towards a sustainable future through environmental and energy infrastructures that promote circular economy and empower the energy transition. For 70 years now, we have been pioneers, meeting the challenges of today while investing in the opportunities of tomorrow. Through our people's exceptional expertise and extensive work experience, we lead the way in every business sector we operate by implementing cutting-edge technologies and innovative practices, committed to deliver safe and accessible to all infrastructures, continuing a steady path of sustainable growth, guided by our core values. We operate with ethos, transparency, environmental and social responsibility. Proud of our history and the lasting legacy of our achievements. Ellactor Group. We invest in an innovative and sustainable world.
Dear Travel Blog, I'm back in Greece at the Antoniou Family Hotel. Everything was great 5 years ago, well worth my 4 stars. But now I'm going to change my rating. The place is even better. It's become digital. My mobile is my key. Plus, I have a hotel app for whatever I need. The food is delicious and sustainable. Everything is powered by clean energy. I love this family and their hotel. They're so inspiring. As Mr. Antoniou once told me,
όλα είναι δυνατά. Αρκεί να έχεις τους κατάλληλους ανθρώπους δίπλα σου. Εμείς τους βρήκαμε στην Alpha Bank.
Είμαστε δίπλα σου με τη νέα υπηρεσία Alpha Smart Hospitality για να έχεις τους εξειδικευμένους συνεργάτες και τα εργαλεία που χρειάζεσαι και να περάσεις με σιγουριά στη νέα εποχή του τουρισμού. Από την Alpha Bank.
More than half a century ago, we envisioned the future, with people living in sustainable cities, in harmony with nature, with contemporary infrastructure, empowering quality in daily life. We envisioned the future and paved the way for the short and long journeys that connect people's lives and make dreams come alive. We believed in the clean energy revolution and the power of innovation, and ventured forth. We believed in our people who carried their skills and expertise all over the world. We believed that everything new we undertake should create opportunities and bring prosperity to all. Gek Turner Group, investing in Greece, investing in the future.
Το δάσος δεν έπαψε στιγμή να μας προστατεύει. Έχει τα μάτια του στραμμένα επάνω μας για να μας προσφέρει στέγη, οξυγόνο, ζωή. Ήρθε όμως η στιγμή να στρέψουμε τα δικά μας μάτια επάνω του. Με την πρωτοβουλία Vodafone Smart Forest δημιουργούμε το πρώτο έξυπνο δάσος στην Ελλάδα που εντοπίζει έγκαιρα τη φωτιά. Αγκαλιάζουμε πιλωτικά περισσότερα από 314.000 στρέμματα στην Πάρνηθα με τη δύναμη της τεχνολογίας και του Vodafone Green Network. Γιατί όταν μπορούμε να προστατεύουμε το δάσος, μπορούμε να συμβάλλουμε σε ένα πιο βιώσιμο μέλλον για τις επόμενες γενιές. Together we can. Vodafone.
Today, Hedno is changing. We modernize our distribution network. We upgrade our services for everyone's benefit with smart grids, using automated systems and taking advantage of all the latest energy trends. We digitize our repair crews' work. We reduce costs. We lead the market and protect the environment. Above all, we put our energy into building a new network to communicate better with you, so that you can be assisted over the phone and report any fault online or via your mobile. Find immediate and direct solutions to most of your requests through our online services. Apply online to connect your electric vehicle recharging infrastructure to our network. Get prompt and accurate answers via a digital assistant. A network of innovation, a network of better service. And no, one power system for all.
Everything and nothing has changed. Even if the world feels uncertain, it's reassuring to know things that were important before still matter today. Connecting people, sharing ideas, and solving problems. These things will always be in our DNA. Working across borders, helping to keep doors open, business flowing, and continuing to realize the hopes and ambitions of our customers and colleagues. When you think about it like that, thankfully, not quite everything has changed.
10 με 18 Σεπτεμβρίου, 86η Διεθνής Έκθεση Θεσσαλονίκης. Τιμόμενη χώρα, τα Ηνωμένα Αραβικά Εμιράτα. επιχειρηματικότητα, εκπαίδευση, τεχνολογία, ενέργεια και κυκλική οικονομία, αυτοκίνηση, ηλεκτροκίνηση, διεθνείς συμμετοχές, συναυλίες και ένα πρωτότυπο επαιτειακό αφιέρωμα για τα 100 χρόνια από τη Μικρασιατική καταστροφή. 86η ΔΕΔ, προκαλώντας το μέλλον. Οργάνωση Χελέξπο.
1, 2, 3. There we go. Ευχαριστούμε, καλορίζικο.
Ο Κυριάκος Μητσοτάκης έκανε τα εγγένεια της πρώτης μονάδας παραγωγής μηχανημάτων ανταποδοτικής ανακύκλωσης της Εμβίπκο στην Ελλάδα που δημιουργήθηκε από Αμερικανούς επενδυτές στην Παλίνη.
Γνωρίζει το βάρος του, βγαίνει μέσα στη συνέχεια. Επεξεργάζεται, συμπιέζεται.
Ο Πρωθυπουργός ξεναγήθηκε στη μονάδα και δοκίμασε τα μηχανήματα ανακύκλωσης που ξεχωρίζουν πλαστικό, μέταλλο και γυαλί.
Το εργοστάσιο αυτό δεν απευθύνεται μόνο στην ελληνική αγορά. Θα καλύψει ανάγκες όλης της νοτιοανατολικής Ευρώπης και γιατί όχι, με μελλοντικές επενδύσεις να μπορεί να μεγαλώσει κι άλλο. Και είμαι απολύτως σίγουρος ότι η επιλογή αυτή είναι μια επιλογή η οποία θα δικαιωθεί. Αποδεικνύονται πια στην πράξη ότι υποψήφιοι επενδυτές μόνο ωφέλη έχουν πια να προσδοκούν από τη χώρα μας.
Στα εγγένεια υπήρξαν και μηνύματα από την άλλη πλευρά του Ατλαντικού.
Ο πρεσβευτής της ανταποδοτικής ανακύκλωσης και δεν είναι άλλος από...
Είμαι ιδιαίτερα χαρούμενος που στην Ελλάδα μας πραγματοποιήθηκε η επένδυση ώστε να κατασκευάζουμε μηχανήματα ανακύκλωσης υψηλής τεχνολογίας για μεταλλικές, πλαστικές και γυάλινες συσκευασίες. Συμβάλλοντας ενεργά στην κυκλική οικονομία, με τεχνολογία αιχμής και όραμα για ένα καλύτερο περιβάλλον. Η ανακύκλωση είναι μια παγκόσμια προτεραιότητα και στον αγώνα αυτό είμαστε όλοι μια ομάδα. Γιατί η ανακύκλωση είναι υπόθεση όλων μας. Ας αφήσουμε τις επόμενες γενιές τον πλανήτη μας σε καλύτερη κατάσταση από αυτή που τον παραλάβαμε.
στις θάλασσες όλου του κόσμου. Η Capital Product Partners LP πλέει πρόσω ολοταχώς προς την πράσινη ναυτιλία με σύγχρονο στόλο 25 πλοίων. Με 15 χρόνια επιτυχημένης παρουσίας στο χρηματιστήριο της Νέας Υόρκης και μακροχρόνιες ναυλώσεις με τις μεγαλύτερες εταιρείες ενέργειας και μεταφοράς κοντέινερ παγκοσμίως, πρωτοπορεί σε μια δυναμική ρότα επενδύσεων σε νέες τεχνολογίες πρόωσης, συμβάλλοντας στην ενεργειακή μετάβαση. Capital Product Partners LP.